Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Men's Club podcast. My name is Mark Aylward, and I'm here as always with my good friend, colleague, and co-host Jim Gurule. And yeah, you know what we seem to do is we seem to have these pre-games, and Jim will bring the past week's events to light, and I will bring my past week's events to light. And there's always enough fodder there for a few episodes, and we struggled a little bit with what exactly we were going to talk about today. But I think, and you can correct me if I botch this, Jim, but it's the differences between how men and women process information. So how they communicate, how they listen, how they talk, um, the infusion or lack thereof of emotion into what maybe would be better served as objective conversation. They're all challenges, and I've said it before. I think that the differences between men and women are to be celebrated. I think they're wonderful. I think we need them and they need us. And I know that you concur on that one, Jim, so I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth. But I don't know if you want to start with a story or you want to grab onto the wheel and give the conversation that context, but have at it. I hope I set that up okay.
Yeah, I did. Like you said, Mark, what I appreciate the pre-games, it definitely makes us reflect on the past week and also the value of the framework, the Imperfect Mid-Club framework.
Hmm.
I find myself using it throughout the week sometimes, but yeah, for those that aren't familiar with it, we use this framework every week, and our episodes always start with a self hyphen whatever. Today, I think we're going to talk about self accountability, but in the middle of that circle, or the hub, is ourself, because the hub consists of these five areas of our life. No particular order, but as a man, I think it's fair to say our whole life's work is has a lot to do with our self worth, and that's our careers. That's whatever we're doing. It's who we are. And again, if you're an entrepreneur versus we're a corporation or a government worker, that plays out different times, but that's really our identity, right? After that, we talk about our relationship with others, which is what the topic's going to be about today. Our relationship with men and women, and it's different. Our relationship with women is different, and to recognize that, whether that's our mothers, whether that's our sisters, or our wives or daughters, it's a different relationship. So that's going to be the topic today. But as you said, Mark, and I appreciate this. This is not in a judgmental way at all. This is just in a reality, especially at the stage in our life. You realize that they process information differently than they, as in women, versus men. But these other things play out in our lives. And again, just to go over the framework, our relationship with the world, our worldview. So that we have two categories. One, our that has a lot to do with our childhood, our heritage, the time and place we grew up, um, and our spiritual beliefs. And then our worldview has a lot to do now, unfortunately, with such a divided country, our politics, and that's the red team and the blue team. So I think we're going to touch on that a little bit too. I don't think there is. I used to think there was a purple, but unfortunately, I think it's getting more red and more blue than ever before, and that's unfortunate because that seems to play out in a lot of interactions that we have during the week. The other relationship is our relationship with money, and how we process that has a lot to do with, of course, our past lives, but abundance versus scarcity. I missed one, didn't I? Our health. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is definitely probably the best one, right? Our relationship with ourself, which is our mental health and our physical health, and especially our mental health, because at times, you question your mental health in terms of, hey, what's going on, and and this is back to our energy. I do believe we vibrate an energy, and call it the universe, call it God. It's some they bring people into our lives for a reason, maybe to have us grow. But these conflicts are telling us something. So when you have conflicts with people, I think that's a message to to try to get it right. And and it doesn't always turn out that way. But I definitely had some negative energy going on this past week, and did some self reflection, which is one of our first for self awareness and then self reflection. but we'll talk about accountability. I've got two stories, Mark, but I'm going to share one because I think it kind of sets it up. I was in Santa Barbara, um, and as you know, I go there, I take these solitude trips, and it's a beautiful drive down the coast, and I go alone always. And it's a quick trip. But anyway, I get there early. I'm on the beach, and I get there at 5 o'clock in the morning as the sun rises. So there's nobody there. It's an empty parking lot, and I do my thing. I run on the beach. I'll swim, and it's just nice, right? And the weather is always nice in the morning. So I'm cooking my breakfast because I just got done with my run, and I'm terrible about getting parking tickets, but this time I actually paid for the parking. I don't know why. There's nobody in the parking lot, but there's a parking. So I'm cooking my breakfast out there, and this parking enforcement car pulls up, two stalls down, rolls down the window, and says, "Hey," well, they don't say how you doing. They roll in. When I say hi, how you doing? I'm obviously in a good mood because it's a beautiful day, and right there on the beach. And she says, "Well, I just wanted to let you know that there's no cooking in the parking lot." And I said, "Oh, hey, I didn't know that. I'm sorry." But the good news is I'm all done. And I started putting my stuff back. I have a van, right? So I put my stuff out of the van. I said, "So no problem. Hey, next time," she goes, "Yeah, next time you cook," she says with this. And by the way, she's, just to give you kind of a visual description, she's, I guess, 70 plus, short gray hair, probably a mustache, but I wasn't that close. But that, I think it explains, right? Who's yelling at me. Remember, she doesn't even stop. She doesn't even turn off the car. She's two stalls down, and she's talking through the window
Hmm.
in this very, let's see, authoritarian voice, which I don't do well
Yeah, yeah,
in
me
general.
neither.
But I'm just like, it was a rough week, and I like, I'm being super nice. Hey, no problem, no problem at all. I'm leaving right now, so I'm putting my stuff back. And then she goes, "Yeah, if just remember that next time." And I said, "I will remember it next time." I didn't know really. By the way, I'm not like, it's not like a campfire. I have a little hot pot and a table, like 2 feet wide. It's
Yeah,
like, this is not a big deal, and there's no cars in the parking lot, right?
yeah.
Uh, so she says, "By the way, you're taking up two parking spots." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "I look, and my van is directly inside the line." I go, "Remember, there's nobody in the parking lot." I said, "You mean my table?" She goes, "Yes, your table." So I look at her. I go, "She's got to be kidding around, right?" I think she's kind of playing, maybe, trying to see. So I grab the table and I pull it in. I move it like 6 or 7 inches towards me, so it's inside the line. I go, "How's that?" She goes, "That's better." And I'm thinking, anyway, this does not go well. First now I lose it, right? And no profanity. I say, "Hey, what? I paid my parking. Here's my parking ticket," which I never have. So I thought she was going to get me on the parking. And I proceed to just let her give her my opinion. "You're harassing me. What is your problem today?" Da, 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 da. So this goes into this big argument, and then finally, I think I win. She says to me, "This is getting way too complicated," and she drives away. So to me, that was a victory, right? That was a win. So,
Yeah.
but clearly, there's some bad mojo going on here. She doesn't like me, and I didn't care for her because of this whole thing. And then I realized, it's need time to go. I need to check out of my hotel. I said, "I just need to leave. It's best just to get out of this environment." And I've had these situations before. So
Hmm.
as I'm driving away, driving out the parking lot, I didn't know she was parked. I kind of saw the car. I didn't know it was her. She yells out the window, "Have a nice day." The point is, Mark, I could tell the universe, the energy I was having, for whatever reason, was a negative energy. And I was like, why is this woman so angry at me? And what was I doing other than just some guy doing it? And clearly she didn't like me for whatever reason. She went beyond doing
Well,
her job. And so it speaks to, sometimes either you're pushing out an energy that's negative, or somebody as predetermined before they even approach you, that
That's where I want to go. I think in the spirit of self accountability and then self awareness,
Hmm.
that in order to be accountable and reflective, yeah, I think you have to have a level of self awareness, and I think this challenges us all the time. I think
Hmm.
that we all come into connection with other people with
Hmm.
an agenda, and
Hmm.
we have to be aware of that. Like the conversations that you and I talked about, me having over the weekend with
Hmm.
some of the female participants in my life,
Hmm.
they definitely had an agenda, but I don't know that they were actually aware of it. I think they were
Oh,
in.
it's a self-awareness.
I
Yeah,
think they
but they
were
have a
in denial.
position in life and how we fit into their life. I think I'm just talking. Let's just keep it. Um, we won't be personal, right? This was a parking person. I don't know if she's a person. I guess you call her a person. I don't know what she is, but she clearly has this job and has some real hate on guys like me for whatever reason, right?
Well, there's all kinds of stuff going on there, but it would all be supposition. You might be right, you might be wrong, but there's definitely
Right.
an agenda. I mean, she came at you
Yeah.
with an attitude that had nothing to do with you. I can guarantee you that much, right?
Well,
So,
y'all have what makes you so sure that she didn't have anything to do with me? I'm obviously playing, but why do you say that? It had nothing to do
well,
with me.
because it's an unreasonable position to take. I mean, it's like, do you have a uniform on so you can tell me what to do? I mean, good. I hope you get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
paid
she was
my.
getting off on it. I really think that
No
was
question. No question. No, I think, I've told you this before. I used to train my salespeople. If you get disrespected, you got to call people out on it. But you
yeah.
also have to understand, you got to de-escalate it in your own mind, because 90% of the time, you got nothing to do with you, right?
Yeah.
If someone comes at me, and this is, women and men handle this differently in my
Yeah.
experience, for sure,
Yeah.
but someone comes at me in about a particular topic about
Hmm.
which they are emotional, they're already losing.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
already becoming less effective than they
Hmm.
could be if they were objectively saying, "Well, do you want to talk about this? I disagree with you. Or I agree with you." But it's like, if you believe this, then you must also believe all these other things, and therefore you're a bad person, or
Hmm.
your character is flawed, or you're dishonest, or you're
Hmm.
misogynistic, or you're a toxic
Yeah,
male.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know.
see what you're saying. She profiled me. Oh, but I forgot a really important detail. Right next to me, like three cars down, was a homeless guy.
Hmm.
No surprises, California. And I say a homeless guy, like he has his van. Of course, he didn't pay for his parking. His door was open and his blanket was hanging out. So, of course, she had to drive past him to find me.
Hmm.
I even actually, it's funny. I said, I was in a good mood. I even made some breakfast and brought him a plate before. Hey,
Hmm.
how you doing? But he was down and out, whatever. So that was the other thing that was interesting. She could have went and picked on the homeless guy. She picked on me. She picked on me
Well,
over the homeless guy.
he's disadvantaged, and you're this spoiled rich guy because of your van, right? So again, she's got
Hey,
an agenda. She's
interesting you
making
say that. What an
assumptions.
what an interesting observation. I think you're right. Maybe she just didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, jealousy is a pretty powerful thing, but I think the place I want to go is this, and it's all over the place now. It's been that way for a long time, and it wasn't I don't believe it was the case when we were kids. I don't remember it being that way, but everyone seems to be a victim now. Everyone seems to
yeah,
have something about which it's
yeah.
not their fault. It's culture's fault. It's men's fault. It's the
Hmm.
society's fault. It's the world's fault. It's
Hmm.
just like, I've had, as we all have had, a number of women in my life, from family members to romantic relationships to ex-wives to aunts and cousins, and certainly a large circle of them. And there's things that stand out, and I not certain. None of this is true for all women, because nothing is true for all of everyone. There's always exceptions to the rule, and it might be the minority of women. It doesn't really matter. But I think there's a lot of victimhood going on now, and I really pick up on it more from females than I do from males. Not to say that there aren't too many men that are emasculated, or have allowed themselves to be emasculated. That's certainly a challenge as well. But this issue that, I try to go through life thinking, everything that I encounter is a choice, and most of the time it's a choice as to how I want to respond to whatever it is that I'm confronting, or that
Hmm.
is confronting me. It's a circumstance or a person, right? Maybe both. But it's like, my inclination, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just saying this makes life easier. It makes life more pleasant. I go, well, what did I do to encourage that? Like, did I bring bad energy? To your point, did I bring bad energy? Did I
Mhm.
bring a predisposition to this? Am I being empathetic that this person who I don't even know perhaps maybe has something going on in her life or his life that's just so devastatingly difficult that they can't not emote. I mean, it could be all kinds of different things, but my first reaction to anything is never, who can I find to blame for this?
Yeah.
And I don't understand that thinking. I don't think that's
Yeah,
certainly not
I don't either.
self-awareness, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and it plays out it plays out in your interactions with people. So it's hard to get to it's hard to have an exchange of thoughts and ideas, and to have a productive, healthy conversation when they're. I guess it's also projection. I don't know what it is. Maybe I put self judgment in the notes just because maybe it's part of that. But so as a result, I went on with beyond my day, but it made me start to think, is this an energy that I am pushing out to a certain group of people? And I'm totally okay with not pleasing making not everybody's going to like you. That's part of life. But this did come up in our pregame about there is this tension sometimes you feel with a group of people, and even though you may have good intentions, they don't have intentions on you. And I'll let you maybe help me do a better job of articulating that. But it's clearly that there's something wrong about either the world or something wrong about what I represent that makes them act a certain way. And I find that could be challenging. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you could say it's challenging, right? Because
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I think I have good intentions. I really want. I'm not. I'm not looking for a confrontation. I wasn't looking for a confrontation at all. I'm looking, you know, if I care about somebody, to communicate something so we both can grow and learn. But it doesn't always come off that way.
Well, there's all these videos that circulate now. They call them Karen videos, and they're
Yeah, I'm
basically
familiar with them. Yeah.
they're women that walk into the lives of strange people, their cars, their bicycles, their neighborhoods, whatever,
Mhm.
and they start to accost people as if that person's business is their business, as if that person is somehow in charge of behavior.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, dude, I don't care if it's a man or a woman. Anybody tries to inflict their rules on me, I don't do well with that.
Oh,
I didn't
interesting.
I didn't even do well with it in corporate America, which is why I was an entrepreneur mostly
Yeah,
because I just
yeah,
couldn't listen to other
yeah,
people who didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, try to tell
yeah,
me what to do. You
yeah,
know, so I think to your point, we do have an obligation, maybe that's the wrong word, to bring to human connection some kindness, some grace,
yeah,
some objectivity. However, that's not always easy, right? Because the world doesn't always make that easy.
yeah.
I get angry sometimes. I get sad sometimes. I get
That's right.
frustrated sometimes. I get anxious sometimes. We all do. But
Mhm.
my experience is that if I get into a discussion with a guy, generally speaking, not all
Mhm.
guys, not every guy, that's going to be relatively objective. It might be opinionated, it might be funny, it might be challenging,
But it's not
but
as emotional
it's not going to be
as
personal more
it's not
often than
personal
not.
and
Yeah,
emotional.
it's not
I
going to be
agree.
emotional. And if one of us gets emotional, it's almost like you can see the guy just check himself because
Yes.
there's a self-awareness about that. Oh, that wasn't cool. I'm not
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
emotion doesn't belong in this
Right.
conversation,
Right.
even if I disagree.
Right.
But with women, and again, not all women, but
Yeah.
many of them, at
Right.
least in my experience, the emotion is inherent in their behavior.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
they come with it. And and the big topic of today is and it's been this way for many years now is Donald Trump.
Mhm.
And when he
Oh
comes
yeah.
up, there is a significant percentage of the population that
Hmm.
don't have the ability to remain objective about those conversations.
Hmm.
It's
At all.
and the other thing, Jim, that's astounding to me is if I have a red hat on or a red shirt on, or I say something that might associate me with him, and I
Hmm.
don't know the man, I've never
Yeah.
met the man, I can't speak to his character. Nobody can except his friends and family.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, I
Yeah.
become this other thing that's full of negativity. It's bad, it's
Yeah.
bad, it's toxic, it's patriarchal, it's
Yeah.
controlling, it's sexually abusive. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's like, where did all that come from?
It's
Right?
like you said, it's a trigger that puts the conversation and the the tone of the conversation completely shifts. As soon as his name is mentioned or at any relationship to even a topic is
Yeah,
related to that,
it's
you just see this energy vacuum, and there's no exchange of commonalities or anything. And this happens. It's interesting. Now we're really talking about what's going on with both our lives in this last week. And I certainly didn't bring his name up, but
I didn't
somehow the
either.
conversation became
Yep,
about this. And
yep.
did they happen to be female women? Yeah. And did they happen to somehow make this a political conversation that I had no interest in having? Yeah.
Yeah.
How does how does this happen? Right?
Well,
Like,
there's a balance, right? So if we're talking about self accountability, then
yeah,
obviously I when I think of these situations, I always try to think, what could I have done differently? What could I have handled that better?
yeah,
Um, and then the other side of that for me is, and we were talking about character, and we were talking about
yeah,
your character and in a decision that you're facing
yeah,
that has to do with your character, that has to do with your
of course.
reputation, and
Hmm.
and how important those things are.
Hmm.
But it's like, well, I also don't ever want to be uh, compromising my
Hmm.
values so that the person I'm talking to doesn't take offense.
Yeah,
And that's been going on for a long time too. It started on the stand-up comedic stage when they just started canceling shows for guys that said stuff that they didn't like to hear. And
yeah.
then it seeped into the universities. It's everywhere now. It's just like,
Hmm.
no, you can't tell me what I can say. That's
Hmm.
not the way this works. You can't tell me what I can do. You can give me your preferences. You
Hmm.
can ask favors of me, not that I need to do them, or maybe I would
Hmm.
do them.
Hmm.
I always try to be respectful and kind and
Hmm.
and sensitive to the needs of others,
Yeah,
but
well,
that doesn't.
you use the word hypocrisy, and I think it does apply. There is a level of hypocrisy that they can do that. We can't do that, but they certainly do exactly what that.
Well, it's judgment, right?
Yeah.
Which in most good human beings would say, we're not supposed to be judging other people. That's not for us to do. But
Hmm.
that same person would turn around and judge you if you had a red hat on. It's just
Yeah,
like,
that's.
and then the other thing that, everyone knows that it's bad to hate people, that to
Hmm.
say, even, I think somebody I was just talking to recently said, my father didn't let me use that word. I wasn't
Hmm.
allowed to use the word hate. And I
Hmm.
wasn't, and you've said to me
Yeah,
before, you
and
weren't
that's
allowed
funny.
to use the word can't. I can't,
Yeah,
when your
that's right.
father
Yeah,
said
yeah, that's
no.
right. Yeah.
And so it's like,
So from childhood, we were told that with warning not to use certain words because it
yeah,
is a way of thinking.
it is. It is. And I think that the same person that says, oh, no, hating people is really bad, except Donald Trump, I can hate him because he's a fucking asshole. I'm like,
And
wait,
that's there's that one asterisk, that one exception. That's okay because everybody's in on it, and if you're
but
not in on it, then
it's worse than that because it's not just him. As soon as it becomes him, it becomes anyone that likes him or is
yeah.
associated with him or agrees with him about anything. I mean,
This is a dangerous environment as far as where we've become. Where it reminds me of. I remember years ago I was in France, and it was talking about when the Germans invaded them, and they were so divided because you didn't know who to talk to, who was on the um, yeah, who was supporting the opposition and who was in on it, and it destroyed. It's not just the war. It's not just the military actions. It's all the people start to fight with each other. That's one of the worst parts about war, and it's almost as that. I feel like that's what's kind of going on. We have these two wars going on, um, and you don't know it's even happening. They're testing you to see if you're one of them or not. It's really bizarre. It's
It's
it's very
it's it's
sad.
bizarre, but was also there are historical, to your point. You just brought one up, a historical. These things have been going on forever. I mean,
Yeah, interesting.
actually, one of the things that came up over the weekend was we were
Yeah.
playing a trivia game, and for some reason Ireland came up, and then I think it was because Rory McIlroy was leading the Masters, and he was from Northern Ireland,
Hmm.
and some of the people that were in the room didn't understand that Northern Ireland is the UK. You know, it's
Sure.
Britain,
Yeah. Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's not Ireland, even though it's attached to
Right.
Ireland,
Right.
right? And those people were killing each other for years. That
Yeah.
the Troubles is what they were called, and it was the
Right.
Protestants and the Catholics, and they were fighting. They were killing kids. You know, they were
Yeah.
setting off bombs and killing
Not that
kids.
long
And
ago. Yeah.
the Troubles ended in 1998 officially. So
Really?
not that long ago at all. And
Yeah.
so this is, I mean, we're facing some of the troubles right now. There's a lot of people that
Yeah.
are talking about the possibility of civil war. I think that's probably an exaggeration. I
Yeah.
hope it is.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's just like,
But I'm going to
just,
put one more layer to it though, Mark. That I think is it's very unfortunate, but I think it's also very apparent. It also seems to be uh, a war against the sexes. It's a female male war as well because I'm not saying I think the majority of this thought comes from. I'm only speaking for California, obviously, because that's where I live. But but I do think it's a division of not just political parties, a division between a man and a woman, and particularly a man of, let's just say, masculine man versus I don't know what the other one is, but there's something going on there. It's not just political.
no,
But
and it's funny that we're talking about this because I didn't even think about it. But the book that I'm writing is, as I've mentioned to you,
yeah,
one of the premises of the book is that men are confused today more so than they ever have been. And then the question is posed by me is why is that? So I
yeah,
investigated that, and I believe my conclusion, whether it's right or wrong, I think it's probably at least partially
yeah.
correct.
It's a
It
book.
makes
It's your
sense.
opinion, right? It's
It's
your
my opinion,
perspective.
but
Yeah,
it's also based on some research and studies that have gone
of
on for
course. Yeah,
years.
hmm,
One of which is the Harvard study of men, which goes back to
yeah. I
1937.
find
So
that
that's some
fascinating.
pretty significant data
Yeah,
over a long period of time. And it's like we came out with this thing called feminism in the 60s and 70s,
hmm,
and the premise of that, the thing was, this is we want to give women the same rights as men. And you could argue all day long that they already had them, or that's been in place for a long time, or that
right.
it's not just about having them in place; it's about enforcing them. That's a different discussion. But we said, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." Most of us did. I'm sure there
Of
were some
course.
guys that were like,
And let's
"Fuck
face
that,"
it, things were a
Most
bit out of whack
well, yeah,
at
they were a bit out of whack, and we corrected them, and I think that's
that's
good. But
right.
what we didn't
Correct.
do is we never put the men in a group and said, "Okay, now let us tell you what this means
Mhm.
to you.
Yeah.
Let us equip you to have this conversation."
Yeah.
And instead of doing that, we were left to our own devices, and I think that just caused confusion, and it caused resentment, and it
Mhm.
caused all of this division, and it's
And
been the people that
confusion.
are having that
Yeah.
conversation on the far left are so energized and so
Mhm.
well equipped with propaganda, and they've been repeating the message over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, this division gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the words I said this phrase to two people recently. I said it one to a man, and I said it once to a woman, and it was the phrase toxic masculinity. And the
Mhm.
guy immediately said, "There's no such thing. There's masculinity and there's toxic people. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
True masculinity is not toxic." And
Mhm.
I
That's true.
and I,
Yeah.
I said the same thing to the woman, and she's like, "Oh, that's one of the biggest problems in the country right now, toxic masculinity." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of a disparity, don't you think? So I
Make it a
think
problem.
that,
Yeah. Well,
well,
it's been taught in our universities for the last 3 decades. So,
well,
yeah.
you and I were talking in the pregame, and we probably need to wrap up soon, but we were talking in the pregame about resolution, about what is to be done about this. my personal take on it, Jim, is I feel responsible to keep the topics on the table. And I feel responsible because I am a good communicator and I do give a shit about people. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I don't have an agenda,
Mhm.
and I'm not perfect. I'm totally flawed like everyone, but that's a good package to keep in the world. And I feel obligated to keep the conversations going. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to try and ruin any relationships with it. It's not. There are many things more important than men and women coming together to communicate more civilly with one another. But it's
Mhm.
pretty important. It would make the world a better place. So I'm not
Mhm.
going to stop talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. So what this episode, I'll let you read it. We'll just throw it in there towards the end. But self accountability. Let's. I think that is the what we
Yeah,
chose to talk about today, and I still think it holds. So
it
read that, and we'll
does.
kind of wrap up with that.
So self accountability is the practice of owning your actions, decisions, and consequences without blaming others or relying on external supervision. It involves honesty, self awareness, and discipline to follow through on commitments like meeting deadlines, managing time, or acting with integrity, even when no one is watching.
Hmm.
And or I would add to that, even when it's hard, even
Hmm.
even when you're mad or angry or frustrated or anxious. And I think the circle back, the lady in the parking lot or the human in the parking lot, whatever you want to say, she had something was poking her in the ass, and it had nothing to do with you, you know. And she
Yeah.
also, they I used to hear people say about cops, most cops, if they weren't cops, they'd be in jail. And I think there's some truth to that because you put a uniform on some people and they become different people. So
Yeah, particularly somebody at that stage in their life, and
yeah.
like you said, I think a lot of it could have been jealousy, just could have been built up anger of a I was the stereotype or she was the stereotype, but
Hey man, you
yeah,
got a shiny brand new van and you're at the beach when everyone else is working. It's like this, of course.
I
She's
forgot it
like,
was in the morning. It was
she's
it
the
was it
she's
was a Tuesday morning,
she's at
so
work. She's making $15 an hour, and you got a Mercedes van in the sun, and you're cooking breakfast for the
yeah.
homeless
And
guy.
and I
Like,
got to admit, I was a bit, full disclosure, I had paid my parking for my parking. I think it was $10. So
yeah.
I had a self-righteous attitude that I was in the right to begin with. Maybe
You know
that
what
was
that is, Jim? That's self-awareness. All right.
it's I'll kind of wrap it up on this one, but it's also it is self-awareness because I think I've told you, and this took a lot of work, and I'm saying this in a funny way, but I told you when I was younger, 10 years old, and I struggled at the time, didn't know that. I had dyslexia, so reading was really hard.
Mhm.
And this teacher that asked me to read in front of the class um, was looked just like her. It
Yeah.
was the same. So when I say there's an energy, there is an energy. I was only 10 years old, so I'm not blaming myself. But when somebody is she was yelling at me in front of the classroom. The classroom started laughing. I'm trying to read, and it's so embarrassing. And she's so mean. She was yelling like, "You're not
Yeah.
trying. You're not trying." And I'm just going, "No, I'm 10 years old." I'm going, I am trying. These words just aren't coming out of my mouth. They're
Yeah.
jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I become self-aware that there are certain um, female, let's just say, uh, personalities or archetypes that trigger me.
Of
But
course. Of
and
course.
but remember, I was being nice to her. I
Yeah.
didn't have. She came to me, so that's probably why she ended up driving away the first time. Like, she's I let it go. I mean, I just like I became very emotional. Like, what are you doing? And I also feel like that I've never been bullied, but I guess it's a form of bullying. She was harassing me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She
No,
was
I think
absolutely
it,
harassing
it
me. That's why I
sounds,
just let it rip on her for about 5 minutes, and finally she says, "You've made this way too complicated," and drives away. I thought it was a victory.
yeah.
She yells out the window, "Have a
Well,
nice day."
I suppose it could have gone farther south than that. And so
It was
you
it
probably,
was it was a matter of seconds before she called the sheriff's department, and I've been in this position before too. That's what happens, right? They
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
accused
yeah.
me of being
Yeah, sometimes you just got to let it go.
I
That's
did. I did.
that
I'm growing up. All
good for you. Good for you. All right,
right.
Jim. We'll do it
Okay.
next week.
All right.
See you.
See.